Let's give a warm round of applause to Mr. Dean Norton.
Anybody here hopes they're eating lunch at noon? I'm telling you right now, it's not happening. I'm at least 25 minutes. And if you've ever listened to Jeff Kirby, we're here till at least 1. Now, I do know that those of you who are looking for slides with pictures of deer and fish, they didn't make the cut this year. What? No fish. But anyways, first off, before I start, I would like to commend the dairy industry, the honey industry, in working on the national issues between those of us and the animal care. What you guys just did this morning is exactly what Farm Bureau is about. Groups getting together and doing it, respectfully. There hasn't been any arguments. You guys have done great. You've worked within your own industries to make sure that the policies that we have are the ones that you want represented. So I commend you for that. Thank you very much. So I guess I'll get started now. I'm pleased to welcome you here to our state annual meeting, and then, importantly, the celebration of 100 years of the Farm Bureau movement. Each year we come together to collectively make decisions about the direction of our organization, and it is the grassroots process that has made us so strong throughout our history. Our organization has always strived to preserve the traditions of New York agriculture while building an effective future for our farmer members and agricultural businesses. So today, I would like to begin by remembering the road we have traveled to this point, and then turn our attention to the future. So that in another 100 years, when the future members look back at this meeting, they know that we set a course for prosperity and success. In 1921, reflecting on the 10th anniversary of the founding of the first County Farm Bureau, right here in Binghamton, the Farm Journal had this to say: "Ideas go booming through the world louder than a cannon. Thoughts are mightier than armies. Principles have achieved more victories than horsemen in chariots." There was a shot fired at Binghamton 10 years ago, which, like the shot fired at Lexington, bids fair to be heard around the world. That quotation alone will give you an idea of how much Farm Bureau means to the history of New York agriculture and the fabric of our rural society. In the early years, we focused on educational goals. In 1911, James Quinn was chosen as the first president of the first County Farm Bureau. Mr. Quinn also served as the master of the Broome County Pomona Greenwich. John Barron was hired by the Chamber of Commerce as the first agent of the Broome County Farm Bureau, and was a tremendous success. Mr. Barron would go on to serve as a Cornell Extension professor of agronomy and retire from that job, but he never forgot his time as the county agent. The statewide organization was formed in 1917 with the goal to promote, protect, unify, and represent agriculture and speak for county associations on a statewide basis. In 1919, leaders from other states met in Ithaca, New York, not too far from here, to cement their intention to form a national federation. In total, 20 representatives from 11 states attended the Ithaca Conference, which led directly to the formation of the American Farm Bureau Federation in November of that same year. The organization continued on until 1955, when New York Farm Bureau Incorporated was formed, and we separated from Cooperative Extension. In the 100 years of Farm Bureau, we have reached many milestones and faced many challenges. From public policy issues like high taxes and property owner rights, to the Farm Labor Bill and natural gas drilling, to organizational issues like agricultural education and young farmer programs. Farm Bureau has always been there, and we intend to always be here. 200 years from now, we will still be the voice of agriculture and the leading advocate for New York's rural way of life. Our goal is not merely to educate, but to advocate and to motivate. As founding agent John Barron said, "I have tried not to be a mere merchandiser of information, but rather to kindle the will to do and accomplish and make the people sensitive and eager." This has been our challenge in the past, it is our challenge today, and it will remain our challenge tomorrow. We have adapted our strategies and modernized our modes of communication, but through it all, we have remained true to our mission, to serve and strengthen agriculture. Throughout 2011, Farm Bureau continued to build a record of success in the area of public policy in both Albany and Washington, D.C. In fact, Farm Bureau's commitment to strong grassroots advocacy has made us an influential voice throughout our history. Over the past decade alone, New York farmers have benefited from at least $1 billion in both state and federal funding from various research, promotion, environmental stewardship, animal health, and food-related issues. Just in the past decade, Farm Bureau has advocated for and passed more than 30 priority bills that gained support and signature of 4 different governors and 2 different parties. This is a record to truly be unmatched. While we do not have a complete history, can we imagine what the success rate is of our organization throughout the last 100 years? 100 years of service to the agricultural community that has brought us the Ag Districts and Assessment Program, established a legal right to farm, in-state and in a state dominated by New York City interests, and saved millions in various tax relief measures for farmers, from the gas tax exemption to Mark Donnell's unincorporated business tax, sales tax exemptions, or the farmer's school tax credit. Looking at the records and articles in the past, we see that the concerns farmers have had and the reasons for our founding still exist today. Farmers were concerned about making sure we had cutting-edge research to improve efficiencies in production and food safety. Farmers were concerned about taxes and excessive regulation, and farmers were concerned about maintaining property rights. Above all, farmers need a strong voice in this state and in this nation. The reason for our founding 100 years ago still exists and are even greater today, when the masses have all sorts of opinions about farmers but no real experience with agriculture. There is still a need for an effective unifying voice and advocacy organization that is aggressive in fighting for our ability to farm and our ability to secure our children's future right to farm. I am proud to report to you what we have accomplished in the 100 years of our founding. Our state public policy victories this year were significant, despite the fact that overall state spending decreased this year. Farm Bureau fought for and achieved an overall increase in state funding for agricultural programs over the original executive budget proposal. After years of inaction by the governor and the legislature, we finally have enacted a 2% property tax cap to address runaway property taxes. The tax cap is a blunt instrument that we have all believed will be the only way to ensure greater spending controls at all levels of government. As an important step as this was, however, New York also needs real mandate relief for our schools and our local governments. And I pledge to you that I and your board will make it a top goal in 2012's legislative session. Governor Cuomo deserves a lot of credit for making economic development and improvement of the business climate the centerpiece of his first year in office. And more important for us, agriculture is part of his economic development plan. Working with legislative leaders, the governor closed a record $10 billion deficit without a single tax or fee. Last summer, the governor launched his regional economic councils, and he made sure that agriculture was included as a full partner. In all, 17 farmers and food industry leaders were chosen to serve on the regional councils. In New York, Farm Bureau will also be represented on the Chairman's Committee. These appointments have allowed us all to have a strong voice on the strategies adopted in each region and to highlight the importance of agriculture to every sector of New York State's economy. While some of the appointees have enjoyed the experience more than others, it is our hope that these councils will allow agriculture and farming, along with processing, to contribute and be a valuable part of regional economic development. Another important economic development program that New York Farm Bureau successfully partnered with Governor Cuomo and the legislature on was Recharge New York. This was a priority issue for New York Farm Bureau, and it will allow agricultural operations to take advantage of low-cost hydropower in order to save money on costly utility bills. Since New York has the highest energy costs in the country, this program will make an enormous difference. Finally, 2011 saw positive movement on the issue of gas drilling in the Marcellus and Utica Shale. As you know, we have more than 50 policy statements on this complicated issue, and we are striving to accomplish them all in the new draft regulations. We have a very balanced approach on this issue. Water and land are vital to our farms, and so we have to advocate for strict protections to protect these resources while supporting natural gas exploration and production. We need to guard against unreasonable delays that may try to stifle the drilling industry in its infancy. But I remain optimistic that drilling will move forward with appropriate protections in place. 2011 was a busy year in our nation's capital. While the headlines talk of inaction, and we all know the perils of the federal budget and the situation and its impact on the Farm Bill, surprisingly, a good amount of achievement did occur. The Affordable Health Care Act that passed in 2009 contained additional 1099 paperwork requirements for us. I am very proud of the grassroots postcards and letter writing campaign that you, our members, led to fight this needless red tape. I am pleased to say that our efforts paid off with repeal of this unnecessary 1099 provision. Now we are working to fight a challenge from the U.S. Department of Labor, which appears determined to end the ability of neighbor kids, and in some cases, your own children and grandchildren, to work on your farm. New York Farm Bureau has submitted comments. Many of our members have submitted comments, and we worked in partnership with FFA and ag education groups in New York to strongly oppose this proposed regulation, which could have major consequences to our ability to attract the next generation into farming. Farm Bureau also works to open avenues for new opportunities for our members. And so I appreciate our grassroots advocacy efforts paying off with congressional passage and the presidential signature of 3 very important free trade measures that will open up new markets for agricultural products. These agreements are the South Korea, Colombia, and Panama free trade agreements, and they are expected to produce $30 million in new agricultural exports in New York State alone. I am also honored to have been appointed by American Farm Bureau Federation President Stallman to the AFBF Trade Advisory Committee. In this capacity, I've had the ability to advocate for you, the New York Farm Bureau, in policy issues and establish networks with international organizations and embassies that will hopefully pay off in the long run. Recently, I went on a trip to Europe. I participated in meetings with World Trade Organization officials and other embassies in Geneva. I had a chance to talk to farmers in countries diverse as Poland and Switzerland. And farmers in those countries, folks, they are jealous of the opportunities we have here in this country. And they think we don't have enough rules or regulations that restrict our ability to grow crops. Well, I certainly think that We have some of the strictest food safety standards. I'm very concerned about the battles we've had to do lately with the Environmental Protection Agency on regulatory issues. And it's interesting to hear their perspective shaped by the reluctance of the European Union bureaucrats and their failure to embrace technology. And it was interesting to swap their stories and hear about their challenges of farming. So when you hear me talk about rules, I'm talking about my friends in Europe and the rules that we need to have. Another important achievement, Farm Bureau's efforts to exempt milk from the SPC, or the Spill Control and Countermeasures Rule. This measure is specifically aimed at oil spills, but amazingly, through the ingenuity of bureaucrats, it was set to apply to all things milk. But through our efforts in Washington, we were able to ensure that milk was not included in this protocol. Two final important wins included convincing the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration to pull back driver's license requirements for tractors, and ensuring that the continuing resolution adopted for this year's budget allows potatoes to continue to be served in school lunches. New York Farm Bureau will continue to fight into the new year to achieve an equitable federal farm bill that addresses the pressing need to reform the crop insurance program to include coverage for all commodities and to secure a sensible dairy policy. Dairy policy is on the brink of either great opportunity or great challenge, depending on how you look at it and what Congress actually decides to do this year with the Farm Bill. One thing is clear: New York Farm Bureau will be fully engaged in dairy policy discussion that seek to implement new margin insurance requirements in order to ensure that when a final bill is adopted, New York's dairy farmers' issues are fully addressed. No discussion of our success in the public policy arena would be complete without mentioning the need to support our Political Action Committee, Farm New York PAC. As you will recall, this was established to give us another effective tool to advocate for common sense, pro-farm policies in Albany. I am happy to report that our PAC is making a difference in the Capitol and strengthening our advocacy efforts. Attendance at political receptions has allowed our staff more opportunities to engage downstate representatives on policy matters, as well as show our appreciation for our staunch upstate supporters, and we have achieved positive results. The connections formed at these fundraising events for downstate members allowed staff to follow up with individuals who really have little knowledge of agriculture or farming. But we've been able to educate downstate representatives and secure sponsorship or supportive legislation, and had questions favorable to us asked at staff legislative hearings. This is all because when they have a question about farming, they now have a face and a person and a mind to call. This past year, we took in voluntary PAC contributions totaling $9,320 and had expenditures totaling $5,248. These donations allowed us to participate in many additional visits to elected officials to advocate for New York Farm Bureau policy. In the coming year, we need your help to grow the size of our PAC, to ensure that we can reach more downstate members and show our appreciation to our upstate representatives, to ensure the farmer's voice continues to be heard despite our relatively low percentage of total population in New York. As many of you are all painfully aware, 2011 was a very difficult year for New York State, and particularly for farmers. Due to the devastations of Hurricane Irene and Tropical Storm Lee, the costs are still being counted, both monetarily and personally. The overall cost will run into the billions, and the cost of farmers in the tens of millions at least. This was a difficult time for us, but it also demonstrated the resiliency of New York farmers and the community spirit that joined together to help our fellow farmers. In the aftermath of the storms, I was able to meet with Governor Cuomo to assess the damage and advocate for assistance, along with USDA Secretary Tom Vilsack. We also work closely with Senators Schumer and Gillibrand and our entire congressional delegation to ensure that our representatives in Washington clearly understood the challenges that our farmers were facing and the pressing need for assistance. I was also personally involved in spearheading the coordination between our public policy and field staff emergency team, which reached out and assisted members, providing important information about various programs on our website and through our email network, as well as the old-fashioned farm visits and phone calls. I'm pleased to say we were able to coordinate a team of experts led by Commissioner Albertine and the State Department of Agricultural Markets, along with our invaluable partners at the county level with the Soil and Water Conservation Districts and the County Cooperative Extensions. This partnership helped provide immediate assistance to farmers stranded from road closures to finding immediate feed and forage donations to help farmers who had lost everything in the floods. I am very proud of the work that we did in the aftermath of this horrible tragedy. And all of our local grass leaders and our staff deserve a tremendous amount of credit for the hard work and dedication that they provided. Working with our partners in government, we achieved some success in providing disaster aid to those in need. At the state level, Governor Cuomo provided $15 million from the Agriculture and Community Relief Fund, and also another $5 million through NYSERDA to assist farmers in replacing damaged equipment related to energy infrastructure. Much more recently, Congressman Gibson and Tonka, Senators Schumer and Gillibrand were instrumental in assisting farmers by ensuring that $338.6 million was included in the federal budget to support the emergency conservation and emergency watershed protection programs. This assistance is a significant first step in helping New York farmers to rebuild. These steps are significant, but it's very important to note that they are not the final steps. Much more will be necessary to allow our state's farmers to truly recover from the devastation of these storms. Whether you want to call it global warming or climate change, or as many of us just deal the weather, the reality is that we need to think carefully about what tools are needed to help each other recover from storm events or other natural disasters of this magnitude. I pledge that it will remain a top priority of New York Farm Bureau moving forward to ensure that additional aid and long-term reforms are passed. All in all, I'm happy to report that the state of New York Farm Bureau is strong. We are on solid financial footing, and we are focused on both the retention of current members and the recruitment of new members, even in a year as challenging as this was for our family members. Our membership goal shall remain 50,000 members in the next 10 years. It is achievable. We just have to think carefully about what we're doing and how, and adapt our organization to achieve that goal. Our neighboring state, Pennsylvania Farm Bureau, has done it, and we can too. Throughout our long history, Farm Bureau has faced many changes, and we have met them all head on. Whether it was the simple founding of Farm Bureau and Cooperative Extension, or the difficult but necessary split of our two organizations in 1955, or the sale of Farm Family. Change is a part of our success over the last 100 years. As many of you are aware, New York Farm Bureau is bracing yet another important change. In the spring of this year, the Board of Directors decided to end our relationship with Farm Family Insurance and pursue a new partnership with another insurance company effective January 1st, 2012. I'm excited about this new endeavor, and I look forward to many years of shared success. Let me say that this was not an easy decision for the board to make, but I can assure that it was made with the best information possible and with a desire to make sure that New York Farm Bureau continues to be organizationally and financially strong for many years to come. I would like to thank Tim Walsh and his team at Farm Family Insurance for their many years of service to us and wish them well into the future. I know that we part as friends and will both continue to work to protect New York agriculture. I am sure that many of you have questions and concerns, and I know that Jeff Kirby, our Executive Director, will provide some additional information in his report. Many members have asked, why haven't we talked more about this change, or why are we naming our new partner? We are contractually bound to our current partner, Farm Family Insurance, until December 31st. And just like New York Farm Bureau staff, I and your board are honoring that commitment until the end of the term. Rest assured that when we start the new year, you will hear a lot about the new company, which also has a solid record of working with agriculture early and often. I am reminded of advice that my late grandfather used to give us guys on the farm. He would tell us that change is inevitable, and if you are accepting of change, it'll be a rewarding experience. I would like to ask for your patience as we begin to implement the impending changes. And be ready to let us know if we drop the ball. By working together, we can get to the time when our kids and our grandkids will be here celebrating 200 years of Farm Bureau. Sticking with the theme of change, I'd like to update you on some improvements that are being made on the communications and member benefits front in order to better serve the needs of you, our members. Last year, I reported that our goal by the end of state annual meeting was to go from 400 followers on New York Farm Bureau's Facebook site to 500. We achieved that goal. As we meet today, our Facebook page has grown to 1,326 followers. This medium provides us with a great opportunity to communicate about important issues, both with our members and those that may want to become members. The reason is that since every Facebook user can view the postings of their friends in their group profile, we are actually reaching more than 1,326 followers each time our page is updated. We also just launched a New York Farm Bureau Young Farmer and Rancher Facebook site, giving our young farmers the opportunity to connect with each other in new ways to exchange ideas in farming, policy, and educational issues. And I'm sure that they would accept some of us gray-haired farmers as well. Since we last met, we have also added new benefits to our membership package, including a $500 discount when purchasing most GM vehicles. Is there anybody here that has a Cadillac or a Corvette? You're not allowed. Sorry. These are the kind of benefits that help us to attract associate members. We are also continuing to work to expand the number of supporting members in our organization by getting the word out and growing our list of businesses willing to offer the farm stand discount. Another exciting step that has been taken recently to more effectively deal with the presentation of our issues has been our bringing New York Farm Bureau's media relations function back in-house here at New York Farm Bureau. This is a significant change, but it's a great one. And it shows that in order to achieve 100 years of service, the organization and programs we've offered continually evolve. We are developing an integrated communication strategy to deliver our statewide and local messages as effectively as possible, making sure that our state organization will help County Farm Bureau leaders with the tools you need to communicate our overall message. I am convinced that making this adjustment will lead to more positive traditional and social media coverage of agriculture and of New York and our county farm bureaus, which in turn will have a positive impact on our membership recruitment and retention efforts. In closing, I would like to thank my wonderful family, my children Kaylee and Kyle, for their steadfast love and support, and I would especially like to thank my First Lady, my lovely wife Melanie. It would not be possible for me to advocate for you and this organization without her strong support and commitment to our family and home. So Melanie, thank you very much for your help. I would also like to thank the leaders of the Broome County Farm Bureau for being our hosts and commemorating an extraordinary event in our organization's history, the 100th anniversary of the Farm Bureau system. In 100 years of Farm Bureau's existence, we have successfully preserved the history and heritage of agriculture in New York State, but more importantly, we have always forged ahead. The founders of Farm Bureau have set the bar very high for us and are truly role models for all of us to follow. They didn't just go along to get along, they pressed ahead. They stood firm in their values, and they utilized the spirit of innovation that has made this country great. Our charge is the same. In 100 years, when a future state annual meeting looks back at us, let's ensure through our hard work and dedication, they will see us in the same light that we see the men and women of 1911. And I close by thanking you for providing the food, fuel, and fiber for the citizens of New York and our country. It's without you, we would not be eating, we would not be driving. And you guys do God's work. So thank you again.